So we'll chant the verse. Avatara hi asankhyeya Hare Satvanidhe Dvijaha Yata Vidashinaha Kulyaha Sarasaha Syu Sahasrasaha Avatara hi asankyeya Hare Satvanidhe Dvijaha Yata Vidashinaha Kulyaha Sarasaha Syu Sahasrashaha Avatara hi asankyeya Hare Satvanidhe Dvijaha Yata Vidasinaha Kulyaha Sarasaha Syuhu Sahasrasaha. Any of the devotees want to chant the prayer, the shloka?
Avatara hi ashankyaya Hari Sattvanidhe Dvijaha Yatha Vidasinaha Kulyaha Sharasasyu Sahasrashaha.
Thank you, Mataji. Anybody else?
Avatara asakyeya Hare Satvanidhe Dvijaha Yata Vidasina Kulayaha Sarasasu Suya Sahasraha Sahasrasaha.
Thank you, Mataji. One more.
Avatara hi asankheya Hare Satvanidhe Dvijaha Yata Vidasinaha Kulayan Sarasaha Srihu Sarasaha Sahasraha.
Thank you, Prabhu. Synonyms. Avataraha, incarnations. He, certainly. Asankyeyaha, innumerable. Harehi, of Hari, the Lord. Sattva Nidehe, of the ocean of goodness. Dvijaha, the Brahmanas. Yata, as it is. Avidashinaha, inexhaustible. Kulyaha, rivulets. Sarasaha, of vast lakes. Shuhu, are. Sahasrasaha, thousands of. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation: O Brahmanas, the incarnations of the Lord are innumerable, like rivulets flowing from inexhaustible sources of water. Simple translation. I'm going to read it one more time. O Brahmanas, the incarnations of the Lord are innumerable, like rivulets flowing from inexhaustible sources of water. In Sanskrit, on top on the verse, Sankhya, Asankyeya means innumerable, Prabhupada says. Sankhya is the number in Sanskrit. Sankhyeya is countable or definite. So Asankyeya is innumerable or uncountable. Purport. The list of incarnations of the personality of Godhead given herein is not complete. It is only a partial view of all the incarnations. So Prabhupada is suggesting that the incarnations that we have read in the past few weeks, so all that listed until now in the 3rd chapter is not complete. So the list of incarnations of personality of Godhead given herein is not complete. It's only a partial view of all the incarnations. There are many others, such as Sri Hayagriva, Hari, Hamsa, Prishnigarbha, Vibhu, Satyasena, Vaikunta, Sarvabhauma, Vishwakshena, Dharmasetu, Sudhama, Yogeshwara, Brihadbanu, and others of the bygone ages. Sri Prahlad Maharaj said in his prayer My Lord, you manifest as many incarnations as there are species of life, namely the aquatics, the vegetables, the reptiles, the birds, the beasts, the men, the demigods, etc., just for the maintenance of the faithful and the annihilation of the unfaithful. You advent yourself in this way in accordance with the necessity of the different yugas. In the Kali Yuga, you have incarnated garbed as a devotee. This incarnation of the Lord in Kali Yuga is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are many other places, both in the Bhagavatam and in other scriptures, in which the incarnation of the Lord as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explicitly mentioned. In the Brahma Samhita also, it is said indirectly that although there are many incarnations of the Lord, such as Rama, Narsimha, Varaha, Matsya, Kurma, and many others, the Lord himself sometimes incarnates in person. Lord Krishna and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are not, therefore, incarnations, but the original source of all other incarnations. This will be clearly explained in the next shloka. So the Lord is the inexhaustible source for innumerable incarnations, which are not always mentioned, but such incarnations are distinguished by specific extraordinary feats which are impossible to be performed by any living being. That is the general test to identify an incarnation of the Lord, directly and indirectly empowered. Some incarnations mentioned above are almost plenary portions. For instance, the Kumaras are empowered with transcendental knowledge. Sri Narada is empowered with devotional service. Maharaja Prithu is an empowered incarnation with executive function. The Matsya incarnation is directly a plenary portion. So the innumerable incarnations of the Lord are manifested all over the universes constantly, without cessation, as water flows constantly from waterfalls. A nice short purport. We will elaborate a little more on Prabhupada's purport. So where we are in the Bhagavatam reading is sages of Naimisharanya ask Sutta Goswami 6 questions. We have seen the questions in the past. So the 6 questions are listed in the left of the table, and the answers are being provided by Sutta Goswami. So the portion that we are reading, we are almost coming towards the end of that portion. The Leela Avatar, questions about the sages are asking Sutta Goswami to explain about the Leela Avatars of Krishna, of the Supreme Lord. And those are being covered in, we have been reading from verse 6 to, we'll go all the way to next week, verse 27. That's when that question, completion of the answers will be done. After that, the key verse about Krishna being the fountainhead of all the incarnations will be mentioned in the 28th verse. So that's where we are in the Bhagavatam. The last 20 weeks have been amazing. So each week we've been hearing about different incarnation of the Lord, Leela Avatar. So starting from, so these are the list of avatars we have gone through. So in the beginning of this chapter 3, Mahavishnu as the Karanodaka Sai Vishnu, who is the source of the universes coming out. And he is the one who gets then, who comes into the universe as Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu. And then, all the creation starts. And then from him comes Brahma, Swayam, from the lotus flower coming out of his navel. And he is the source of all the avatars within the universe. So the incarnations within the universe are the Leela avatars. We started in verse 6, 4 Kumaras, followed by Varaha, and then Narada, and Nara Narayana, followed by Kapila Dev, Dattatreya, Yajna, King Rishabha or Rishabh Dev, and then Prithu Maharaj, about whom we are also reading in great detail in 4th canto now in our evening Srimad Bhagavatam reading. Matsya Avatara, Kurma Avatara, Dhanvantri and Mohini Murti, and Narsimha Dev, Vamana Dev. Yesterday was Vamana Dev's appearance day. So Vamana was mentioned as the 15th incarnation in this Leela avatar. Parashurama, Vyasadev, Rama, Balarama and Krishna are mentioned as the 19th and 20th incarnation. Lord Buddha, 21st incarnation in Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, Lord Buddha is mentioned as the first incarnation, and then Kalki comes towards the end of Kali Yuga, which Mataji or Yeshwari Pran Mataji had discussed the previous week, previous week. That's the 22nd incarnation. So last 20 weeks have been beautiful pastimes of different incarnations. So the today's verse comes after that as like a summary of that, wherein Prabhupada is saying the incarnations of the Lord are innumerable, like rivulets flowing from inexhaustible sources of water. Whatever we have read here in that the 22 incarnations are not all, or the plus the 3 Vishnu Purusha avatars, that is not all. There is innumerable, not all of it can be mentioned. There are many of them mentioned in our scriptures. The 6 categories of incarnations generally we speak about are Purusha avatars, which covers Karnodakasai Vishnu, Garbhodakasai Vishnu, and Shirodakasai Vishnu. And Shirodakasai Vishnu is the one who is in the form of Paramatma in all of us, within all living entities. Leela avatars, that's the one that we discussed in the last 20 sessions. So 22 Leela avatar incarnations are listed now. Guna avatars are the 3 forms, one to represent goodness, one to represent passion, one to represent ignorance. And also these are the ones that then there's the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this material universe. Manvantra avatars. So each day of Brahma is 1000 yuga cycles, and in those 1000 yuga cycles there are 14 manus. So each manu represents one Manvantra avatar. But during each reign of each manu there is an avatar of Vishnu, or the avatar of the Lord, and it changes from so there are 14 Manvantra avatars. We'll list that in the next slide. Yuga avatars, the 4 colors of Yuga avatars is mentioned in many different places in Bhagavatam, and more details are given in the 11th canto. The Satya Yuga is white, Dwapara Yuga is Treta Yuga is red, Dwapara Yuga is black, and Kali Yuga is yellow. And then Satya Vesha avatars, we are very familiar with Satya Vesha avatars from Prithu Maharaj reading. Prithu Maharaj is one of the Satya Vesha avatars. So they are empowered incarnations like Kapila Dev, Kumaras, Narada, Prithu. Sometimes Satya Vesha avatars can be the Lord's incarnation himself, direct incarnation himself, or it can be a living entity empowered with the Lord's incarnation, Lord's potency. That is Satya Avesha avatars. So like Kapila Dev is considered incarnation of the Lord, whereas Kumaras or Narada or Prithu Maharaj is so they are given the potency. So that's a Satya Vesha avatar. So there is no end to these expansion and incarnation of Krishna. So it is repeating the same translation, the incarnation of Supreme Lord are innumerable, just as rivulets flowing from inexhaustible sources of water. So Manvantara avatars, a little more detail. So there are 14 the Vishnu avatars mentioned here for each Manvantara. So starting from Swayambhuva Manu, Swayambhuva Manu is the first Manu. In his period, Yajna was the avatar. In the subsequent one, Vibhu, Satyasena, Hari, Vaikunta, Ajita. We read about Ajita during the Kurma avatar, churning of the milk ocean pastimes, where Ajita is also present and helping with the churning of the milk ocean along with the demigods. And then Vamana, whose appearance day was yesterday. We are currently in the 7th Manvantara, which is the Vaivashvata Manvantara. For Vaivashvata Manvantara, Vamana is the avatar, Manvantara avatar, Vamana Dev. He is known by Vamana Dev, Upendra, because he appears as the brother of Indra, brother of the demigods, and Trivikrama, because of the 3 steps he takes during the Bali Maharaj pastime. So he has many different names. In the subsequent ones, Manvantras, Sarvabhauma, Rishabha, Vishwakshena, Dharmasetu, Sudhama, Yogeshwara, Brihadbanu. So those are the 14 Manvantras. These are the ones that Prabhupada lists in the first part of the purport. That we only know so many, there are so many more. And Yuga avatars, as I mentioned in the 11th canto, some more details about the Yuga avatar is given. In each of the Yuga avatars, the Lord incarnates with a different body color according to the Yuga. So the verse says, Asan varnas trayohi asya grinato aniyugam tanuhu shuklo raktas tata pita idanim krishnatam gataha. Krishna appears as incarnation in every millennium. In the past, he assumed 3 different colors, white, red, and yellow. And now he has appeared in a blackish color. Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 10.8.13. So, you can think of this, why Krishna has to appear in 4 different colors in different yugas. Prabhupada says, if you look at sunshine or sunlight, you look at it as one single color sometimes. But when you analyze the sunlight, it contains spectrum of colors. By using proper optics, you can get different colors out of sunlight. So just like sunlight is a spectrum of different colors, it contains everything. Krishna, who is the source of all incarnation, he contains everything. So he can appear as any different color. So that is one of the explanation Prabhupada gives. In the 11th canto, it's described that Krite Shuklas Chaturbahu. So in the Satya Yuga, he comes in the four-armed form. A white avatar appeared to Kardama Muni to establish meditation as the process for self-realization. And then in Treta Yuga, he comes as Tretayam Rakta Vamosav. Rakta is red. In Treta Yuga, he comes in the red avatar. He appeared to Brahma to establish fire sacrifice as the process for self-realization. So generally, there are many different names given for this, but in Satya Yuga, it is Hamsa is the white avatar normally talked about, and Treta Yuga is Yajna. In the Dwapara Yuga, a dark avatar appeared as the son of Devaki to establish deity worship as the process for self-realization. So Dwapara Yuga, we all know Krishna. Krishna is the dark color, blackish blue. And that's mentioned as Dwapare Bhagavan Shyamaha. And then in Kali Yuga, Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam. So he is not blackish, but he is Krishna himself. In the Kali Yuga, a yellow avatar appeared, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the son of Sachi Mata, to establish the chanting, Yuga Dharma, to establish the chanting of the holy name as the process for self-realization. So Satya Avesha Avatar is the sixth one. There is no limit to the Satya Avesha incarnations. Some are mentioned in the literatures, in scriptures, and some, there are so many of them, innumerable. There are two kinds typically talked about, direct and indirect. When the Lord expands himself, displaying a particular power of his opulences, he is known as Shakshat. That is not a living entity, that is still a Vishnu Tattva. He is a Satya Vesha avatar, but Vishnu Tattva. But when he empowers a living entity, so that's in this particular case, it's a Jiva soul empowered with the Lord's potency, with some particular Shakti, power for some specific activity to represent him. That living entity is called indirect or Avesha incarnation. So he is giving a particular Shakti to him, so it's Satya Avesha incarnation. So some examples typically mentioned are 4 Kumaras empowered with knowledge. So Jnana Shakti, they spread the knowledge, the transcendental knowledge. Narada empowered with devotional service. Narada is given the Bhakti Shakti. So he, just by his association, he gives mercy to hunter who is most abominable, Mrighari, or Chitraketu, King Chitraketu, when he was lamenting about his the death of his son, Narada comes there and beautifully gives association, and within a short time Chitraketu becomes a pure devotee. Brahma empowered with creative power. Brahma is Shrishti Shakti. He has given the power of creation so that he can beautifully create all this universes, all these facilities within the universe and the living entities. King Prithu empowered with power to maintain living beings. So Prithu Maharaj, as we have read, he is given the Palana Shakti. He is considered the first and foremost of the kings. He is the top example of how to be a king. Parashurama is empowered with the power to kill evil elements. Dushta Dhamana Shakti, it's called. So he annihilated all the irreligious kings many times. Veda Vyasa was given the he's a literary incarnation. He's given the Shakti to compile the Vedas, compile the literary works for the welfare of the people of Kali Yuga. So those are the different types of avatars. So just a sample of what it is. It's innumerable, of course. So whenever we talk about this creation, there is only two things: Krishna and Krishnas. He's the energetic, he's the source, and all other things are his energies. So he is the we call him one without birth, right? He has no birth, he has no death. So he is beginningless, endless. So he is the first Purusha. He is the only one present, and then comes everything else. So energetic and his energies. Prahlad Maharaj, in the purport, Prabhupada quotes this Prahlad Maharaj statement: "My Lord, you manifest as many incarnations as there are species of life, namely the aquatics, vegetables, reptiles, birds, beasts, men, demigods, etc., just for the maintenance of the faithful and annihilation of the unfaithful. So we have read in Bhagavad Gita, so Lord comes for multiple purposes. With one incarnation, he can achieve multiple things, but typically the primary reason he comes is maintenance of the faithful, or giving association to his devotees. That is his primary reason. And then annihilation of the unfaithful, or the demoniac. Annihilation of the unfaithful or the demoniac is the secondary thing that he does as part of the incarnation, as part of this avatar or incarnation. So that is the typically the given as the reason, and to establish when there is prevalence of irreligion, he comes and establishes the religious principles again. And Prahlad Maharaj here says that you have as many incarnations as there are different species, which is also understandable in the sense that he is the source of everything, right? He is the energetic, and we are all the energy. So every species, he is the seed-giving father. So you can in one sense consider all of these species as incarnations of him. So he is, if you think about Krishna, he is smaller than the smallest and bigger than the biggest. Anor Aniyan Mahato Mahiyan. You hear that. Anor Aniyan means smaller and smallest, and he is bigger than the biggest. In Brahma Samhita prayer, we hear Andantarastha Paramanu Chayantarastham. So he is there within each atom. So, and we hear about Krishna's pastimes where Mother Yashoda asks Krishna to open the mouth, and he is showing all the universes, entire cosmic manifestation within him. But at the same time, he is also there within each and every atom. Now, how can one comprehend that, right? He is inconceivable. That's why. So he is there as super soul in all the living entities. So in one sense, he is there everywhere. He there in every species can be considered as incarnation. Every living entity can be considered as incarnation. In fact, in the 10th canto, one of the purports, Prabhupada says, the avatars incessantly appear like incessantly flowing water. So in some part of the universe, there are so many universes that emanates from Karanodaka Sai Vishnu. And in each of these universes, there is so many incarnations going on constantly. So, within each universe and within other universes, so there is constant, activity and his appearance. So it is like incessantly flowing water. No one can count how many waves there are in flowing water. And similarly, there is no limitation of the avatars. And Krishna, he is the full representation of all the avatars. He is the source. Aham Sarvasya Prabhavaha. He is the source of everything. Krishna is Amsi, whereas others are Amsa, part of Krishna. So even the living entities are described by Krishna as Amsa. Mamai Vamso Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha, in 15th chapter. So, we are all small, minute Amsas. These Amsas can be of different magnitude. Our living entities are minute Amsas. Demigods, a higher level in terms of consciousness. And then Vishnu Tattvas, they are the expansions of the Lord, and all other living beings. We are all part of the Supreme. So that's how we can understand Prahlad Maharaj's statement there. So Krishna is the full representation of all these living entities because he is the seed-giving father, source. And when Krishna is present, all avatars are included in him. Right? The sunlight has all the different spectrums within the sunlight. You can see each one of them by using scientific methods, but sunlight is still, each of those are still contained in the, when you see the sunlight, each of those are still contained in the sunlight. So Krishna, whenever he appears, all the avatars are included in him. That's also mentioned in Bhagavatam many times. So if you consider as the how many species of life are there, 8,400,000 species. So many aquatics, 0.9 million of aquatics, plants and trees are 2 million species, reptiles are 1.1 million species, birds are 1 million, terrestrial animals are 3 million species. Human beings are only a small portion, 0.4 million, but all of these can also be considered as incarnations of the Lord. This is a reference from Padma Purana. In Brahma Samhita, I think it's verse number 39, it says, Rama dimurtishu kala niyamena tishtan nanavataram akarod bhuvaneshu kintu Krishna swayam samabhavat parama pumanyo govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship the Supreme Lord Govinda, who, though appearing in the worlds in eternal forms such as Rama and Narsimha with their characteristic powers, also appears personally in the supreme form of Krishna with the most attractive pastimes. So Prabhupada mentions this in the purport. That's why I put this reference here. So we see the different incarnations with different characteristics. Each one comes for a certain purpose and displays certain prowess and gives association, protects the devotees, and so on. So depending on the circumstance, that particular avatar comes into being. But Krishna also appears personally in his original form and gives most attractive pastimes. In our case, in Kali Yuga, we can even see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is also none other than Krishna. Krishna Varnam, Tvisha Krishna. So Lord Krishna and Mahaprabhu are not therefore incarnations, but original source of all other incarnations. So in Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his description in Brahma Samhita, he says, Kala Niyamena, means displaying powers fixed according to the particular form. And Swayam Samabhavat, right? Swayam is, we always say Swayam Bhagavan Krishna. Swayam is his original form. Swayam Samabhavat. So he also personally appears in this world. That's the meaning of Swayam Samabhavat. Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramapumani. So this picture I really like, where it shows Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is revealing. Mahaprabhu does not normally reveal himself, but in this particular case, Ramananda Rai, he reveals himself. He is none other than Krishna, but in the complexion and mood of Srimati Radharani. So in Kali Yuga, devotees, are you able to still hear me? I got a small comment saying my internet connection is unstable. So just checking.
You can hear you, Prabhu. You can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Prabhu. So the Kali Yuga incarnation is considered hidden incarnation. But still there are plenty of references given in now scriptures about this hidden incarnation. So the two popular that we normally hear about, I mentioned here. There are other Puranas mentioned, now 10 other references from Garuda Purana, Matsya Purana, Narsimha Purana, Skanda Purana, and so on. All of them mention about it, but we will just, for the sake of time, we'll just go through two of them. Since Prabhupada mentions about this, the references in the scriptures for the hidden incarnation in Kali Yuga. So the reference from 11th canto that we normally read about is conversation between the Navayogendras and Maharaj Nimi. The sage Karabhajana mentions to Maharaj Nimi, Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parsadam Yajnai Sankirtana Prayer Yajantihi Sumedasaha. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting, Sankirtana Prayer, to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, Tvisha Krishnam means not blackish. He is Krishna himself, Krishna Varnam. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, we know he was not blackish color, he was golden color, right? The complexion of Srimati Radharani, he is in her mood. But he is Krishna himself. That's being confirmed here. Krishna Varnam. The meaning of Krishna Varnam is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants. So you can, so many associates of his, Lord Nityananda, Haridas Thakur, so many of them come and serve him and establish wonderful pastimes for our purification. So another reference that is commonly cited, even when we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, the 3rd chapter, where the external reasons for the appearance of Lord Chaitanya is talked about. So this is mentioned there. These are 2 verses from Vishnu Sahasranama. Suvarna Varna Hemango Varangas Chandanangadihi. So that is 1 verse, which essentially says, in his early pastimes, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears as a householder with a golden complexion. His limbs are beautiful and his body smeared with the pulp of sandalwood, seems like molten gold. So anybody who has read about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, we hear about all this description of him, about his golden complexion, seeming like molten gold, and his limbs are long and beautiful. So and he appears as a householder. So initial part of his pastime is he is playing the role of a householder as Nimai Pandita. So that's what is mentioned in that particular verse. And then there is another verse, Sannyasa Krit Shamasanto Nishta Shanti Parayanaha. So in the later pastimes, we see that he accepts sannyasa order to fulfill the purpose of his incarnation. So he accepts the sannyasa order and he is equipoised and peaceful. Shama Shanto. He is the highest abode of peace and devotion, for he silences the impersonalist non-devotees. So we were just reading a few weeks back about how in Varanasi he goes into the association. He's welcomed by a Brahmana to come and meet the Mayavadi sannyasis, where he is meeting with Prakashananda Saraswati. And just by his effulgence, he purified. They ask him questions about why he's roaming around in the streets, dancing and chanting, rather than studying Vedas more thoroughly, like what they're doing. And then he gives beautiful explanation about how his Guru Maharaj tells him that chanting of the holy name is the process that is recommended. And just by hearing his answers, they are all convinced and they become the followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prakashananda Saraswati was topmost Mayavada philosopher at that time, and he and his devotees, he and his disciples became disciples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's a wonderful pastime. So Prabhupada, in the end of the purport, he says, so, how do you recognize who the true incarnation? There are going to be, because we are in Kali Yuga, there is propensities to cheat. People have, living entities have 4 defects. One of them is propensity to cheat. So there is going to be some living entities who are going to use that propensity to cheat and say they are the incarnation, and they might have some mystic powers, and people tend to believe when they are forced upon a few times, that I am the incarnation and she is showing some magical mystic powers. People tend to follow and think that he is God or she is God. So today is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's appearance day, right? Bhaktivinoda Thakur had during his pastimes, he even dealt with one of these fake sannyasis, Bishika Sen. Bishika Sen was in the outskirts of Puri, positioned himself in a forest. He had done some yoga practices, so he had some mystic powers. So he could create fire out of his hair and things like that. So using his mystic powers, he started propagating that the fake information that he is an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, and his assistants are, so on and so forth. So, and now there were some followers, and, being a living entity who has all these defects, he starts misusing his powers, and the followers, once he gets his followers, he starts doing rasa dance, and then the complaint goes to the higher authorities that there is some irreligious activity happening by this mystic yogi. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was the magistrate at that time, and he was told by the British to deal with this personality. And the first thing he comes, encounters him. None of the policemen even are willing to take any chances in dealing with this person. They are all afraid of his mystic powers and what he'll do to them. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he is a fearless person. So he goes and encounters this Bishika Sen. And the first thing is, he questions based on scriptures. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, if it is incarnation, it has to be mentioned in the scripture. The Bishika Sen is not mentioned in anywhere in the scriptures. So, we read about Kalki Avatar a couple of 2 weeks back. It clearly says where he will be born, to what parents he will be born. No such thing is mentioned. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur punishes him, and exposes his falsity to this world. So Lord, scripture, Prabhupada says that in many different places we have read. You have to refer to the scriptures as our authority. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, right? So we follow that. We are imperfect by using our senses. So we have to follow Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Mahaprabhu points to Vedic scriptures as unerring spiritual authority. So, and one other thing Prabhupada mentions in a few different places, and in when we are talking about Rama Avatar, also it was mentioned. The incarnations of the Lord exhibit extraordinary feats, which are not possible by any living being. Who can construct a floating stone across a 800-mile ocean, right? Rama did it, and that's those kind of extraordinary feats are telling us that this entity is not ordinary living entity. He is incarnation of the Lord. And Krishna pastimes, so many wonderful extraordinary feats, lifting Govardhana hill with the little pinky finger when he was such a small kid, and killing so many demons who are ferocious and who are the greatest warriors like Kamsa and Jarasandha and so on and so forth. So one other aspect, the incarnation of the Lord, how we can recognize by scriptures, by their extraordinary feats. I'm running short of time. I have only 5 more minutes. I'll rush through a little bit here. So Sanatan Goswami asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the same question in their discussion, and from Lord Chaitanya says clearly you have to see through the Shastra whether a person is an incarnation or not. We should not blindly accept anybody as an incarnation. And in another lecture by Srila Prabhupada, he mentions, this is a Back to Godhead. I got this from a Back to Godhead magazine. But I think it's also mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but I got the reference through Back to Godhead. So I cited that also. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, Mahaprabhu says, an actual incarnation of God never says, I am God. Avatara nahi kahe, ami avatara. No, he is not going to say, I am God and I am incarnation of God. In fact, when people called Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Lord Krishna, he closed his ears. He will not want to listen to that. He is in the mood of a devotee and he does not want to proclaim himself as God. Of course, he has shown personally to few devotees his form as a personal reciprocation, but to the general public, he wants to be seen as a devotee. That is his incarnation. That's the pastime that he is playing. So an actual incarnation never says, I am God or I am incarnation of God. So, the false avatars nowadays, they say they are the incarnation of the Lord. There is one in Tamil Nadu, at least I am aware of, he proclaims himself as the Kalki avatar. So one who claims is not an avatar. One who claims that he is an avatar is not an avatar. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says the avatar does not canvas himself. Similarly, the Guru does not canvas, or Sadhu does not say. Guru does not say, I am the greatest. Sadhu does not say, I am the greatest. They're all just serving their spiritual master and Supreme Lord. Automatically by their qualities. Muni Sabha Jani Kare Lakshana Vichara. Automatically by the qualities of that entity, he becomes accepted as an incarnation or as a spiritual master, or that is recognized by their Lakshana. So to conclude, so the incarnations, we talk so much about incarnations and we have so many different festivals, and yesterday was Vamana Dev's appearance day. So all the avatars, their mission was to preach message to the living entities, and they come to reclaim us, living entities who have come to this material world away from the spiritual world because of envy. So these avatars come to preach the message of God, and they have no other business. They come to reclaim the fallen souls. So if you think about it, we are given the best avatara in our life. Holy name is considered the sound incarnation of the Lord. Kali Yuga Dharma is chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Is also considered Satyavesha Avatara. Prabhupada says, the transcendental sound incarnation of the Lord. So Lord Chaitanya gave us this as the Yuga Dharma. And Mahaprabhu says, Kali Kale Nama Rupe Avatara. Because of all the nadas going on around us, and we are easily influenced by it. But Kali Yuga has the benediction in that we are given this holy name. We don't have to. There are no rules and regulations to chant this holy name. We in Kali Yuga, we cannot do any other forms of dharma like in the prior yugas they were able to do. So we just chant the holy name. This is done best anywhere and everywhere. Ananta avatara Krishnera Nahika Ganana Saka Chandra Nyaya Kari Dig Darshana. There are innumerable incarnations of Krishna, and there is no possibility of counting them. We can simply indicate them by giving the example of moon and the branches of the tree. The way to understand that analogy is moon, when you look through the branches of the trees, moon becomes visible to you. even though moon is so far away. So like that, it is said that, so even though the Supreme Lord is not part of this material universe, he is far away out of the material universe. But for our purification, for our benefit, he appears as these incarnations and gives us the vision of these incarnations, just like we can see the moon through the branches of the tree. So I'll stop there. I think that's all I have. Yeah. Thank you very much for patiently listening to me, for your tolerant nature. If I had said anything, please correct me. We have a few minutes if anybody wants to share their realization. We are at least actually past 8 o'clock, but please take a few minutes and share any realizations you might have. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Hi. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Prabhuji, I do not have any questions, but I just wanted to share my gratitude that I'm able to listen to such a wonderful presentation, and I really feel blessed. Thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. As I said in the beginning of the class, my realization is, I cannot say of anything about anything without Prabhupada's beautiful purports. Even for simple personality like me, he's able to. I cannot understand complex things, so even for people like me, he's beautifully giving these purports in very simple words, so we can easily understand. Thank you, Mataji. Okay, it's 8:03.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Okay, Prabhu. Yeah, I really like the presentation. It was really good. It covered all aspects of the purport and branched out into explaining each part. I had a question about the Leela avatars. So how many times do the Leela avatars actually come up or appear in a day of Brahma?
I think depends on the avatar. I'm thinking, like we know Krishna and Balaram. Krishna appears only once in the day of Brahma. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears only once in the day of Brahma. In one yuga cycle of the many yuga cycles, right? 1,000 yuga cycles. So we are fortunate to be in that yuga cycle where Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. But there are, so Varaha avatar, I think, appears in every yuga cycle as per my understanding. He even appears twice in each yuga cycle. At least that's the way I'm remembering. But for the other ones, there is no clear mention to my knowledge of whether they appear again and again or not. I always had the question that 4 Kumaras, they appear at the beginning, Swayambhu Manu creation. Right? So 4 Kumaras appear at the beginning, and then they curse Jay and Vijay, and then the Narsimha avatar and Rama avatar and Krishna avatar. Those 3 appear to annihilate the three births Jay and Vijay take. So does that appear? I mean, so since Krishna avatar appears only once through the day of Brahma, so that means should I don't know for sure. So I always think whether the 4 Kumaras also appear maybe only once and they stay through the entire day of Brahma. I don't have any reference to confirm this, but this is my thinking logic at least. But for other avatars, I do not know whether Kapila appears many times or Dattatreya appears many times. I don't think there is, to my knowledge, there is no. But there may be other references that I'm not aware of. Ramacharya Prabhu, you know any more, or Rajeshwari Pran Mataji, have you come across anything?
Oh, the answer is the verse itself.
Innumerable.
Yes. Asankhya, avatar. But but at least if we try to understand some, in a quantitative way, then in one day of Lord Brahma, we have around 72 Divya Yuga. And one Divya Yuga has basically 4 of the yugas. So in every Divya Yuga, there is one yuga where Dwapar comes after Treta. Normally you have Satyajug, Dwapar, Treta, then Kali Yuga. But one of the yuga, in one of the Divya Yuga, Dwapar comes after Treta. And in that Dwapar Yuga, on the 28th, when 28 Manus comes, so we have 72 Manus, 73 Manus in one day. On 28th, Lord Krishna appears. So likewise, you can see also how many times Krishna comes in one day of Lord Brahma. Plus, there are other, incarnations also, like Yuga Avatar, Guna Avatar. They are coming and going as needed. Lord Brahma himself, comes and goes. So there are innumerable, incarnations that's happening. Exact number might be a little hard, but of course we can, if we can come up with some numbers for sure if we go through, each Divya Yuga and see how many times Krishna comes and all of that. But then the question is how many times Leela Avatar comes, and those Leela Avatars coming in different yuga also. Not all of them come in Dwapar, some come in Treta, some come in Satyuga. Some of them come simultaneously in the same yuga also. Some of them comes and stay multiple yuga also, right? Like Parshuram, he stayed in multiple yuga. Narad Muni's, Sakti Avatar, he stayed in multiple yuga. So all of that, trying to have some systematic understanding, which is also very important, that we cannot really have pastime of Krishna in a very systematic way, right? We can't define his glories also. So sounds like a little difficult to put it in a very systematic way, that how many times he comes if we have to give the number. And that's what this verse is talking about. That's my understanding. If somebody else has higher understanding, please feel free to share.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, that's nice.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
And
Thank you, Ramacharya Prabhu, for the explanation that makes very clear sense. Thank you, Madhuri Prabhu, for the wonderful class. It was a very nice summary after hearing about 22 incarnations. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend all the 22. I missed, I think, a couple of them. But I feel now I should have, somehow, attended all the incarnation classes. It's wonderful, but it's a nice summary, Prabhu, today. My understanding about the
how often all the Leela avatars appears. I feel like with our limited information within this universe, because we don't have any information outside of this universe. In purport also, Prabhupada says that these incarnation appears simultaneously or constantly in all the universes. So there are multiple or unlimited universes, and there is unlimited Brahmas. And then all the avatars, incarnations, and pastimes are constantly happening. So right now in some other universe, there may be Damodar Leela going on. Krishna may be in some other Leela performing. So I always, one day of Brahma, Krishna appears, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears, but other things, it's, as Ramacharya Prabhu said, it's very difficult to perceive or conceive. Again, it's not one pastime finishes and the next happens. It's constant flow in all the universes, keep happening. As per the need of the universe and the time and the yugas, and it's just going on. I think that's what Prabhupada also saying. It's like a waterfalls. There's no beginning or end. It's just constantly going in all the universes. That's my understanding, Prabhu. But I don't have any other information on, how many times. But we do read in this universe itself, Varahavadar, as you mentioned, twice. Even Matsya appeared twice. Those informations are there, but other than that, it's constantly flowing. So I just wanted to share my understanding, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. I think that's yeah. I think both of your explanation summarizes it nicely. The answer for that question. Yeah, it's constantly happening. Prabhupada says that like a waterfalls. Somewhere or the other, it's Krishna is incarnating in different forms and pastimes are going on and on and on. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. I just, so how often do the Yuga avatars, is Yuga avatar happening every Yuga or because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a Yuga avatar, and it is also mentioned how he is appearing only once. So I'm just having that question too.
Yeah, I do not know the answer for that one. The Yuga avatar, my assumption was it appears every Yuga, but when it comes to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I do not know how to explain that. I have not read anything from Prabhupada related to that.
Also, can I little bit share some understanding?
Please, Prabhu.
So this Yuga avatar concept is very conflicting. What happens is that in one Yuga, there are multiple forms or incarnations of the Lord that simultaneously exist, and all of them depicts, of course, extraordinary qualities. But what happens is that the different sampradaya recognize them differently. So the Yuga avatar, the way we recognize, like for example, for us, Mahaprabhu is a Yuga avatar, and we give a lot of emphasis to Mahaprabhu's incarnation. But do you think that Ramanujacharya Sampradaya doing that? Do you think that Sankaracharya Sampradaya does that? But do they recognize Yuga avatar? Yes, they have their Yuga avatars too. So it's kind of my understanding on this subject is that it's kind of little conflicting even within our family, Gauriya, Brahm Gauriya Madhva Sampradaya. If you really go and read Canto 11, chapter 8 to 11, in 11th canto, there are some descriptions of the Yuga avatars, so and other places in Bhagavatam also. But we within ourselves also, I'm still not sure. I don't have, although I accept it, that Kapila was the Yuga avatar for Satyuga, but I have still other evidence that says that he was not. There was some other personality was there. So this Yuga avatar is even more complex than Lila avatar. And if you change the sampradaya, you'll be surprised to know that some other sampradaya accept Dattatreya as a Yuga avatar too. Saivite will have their own understanding about the Yuga avatar. And all of them accept that these are bona fide incarnations, like 6 categories that we presented. Those categories more or less are accepted by other lineage too, but not necessarily the same personality. So the answer goes back to the same, line of thinking what we had the answer for Lila avatar. Also, there are 2 factors. One is time, and second is universe. So Mataji talked about that. Rajaswari Pandey Mataji talked about that. So those also are the which yuga you are talking about, and which place you are talking about. So it becomes a little complex. But for our sake of understanding, we have 4 names, and you already mentioned those 4 names. But yes, so we have to, if we have to understand, then we can say that in one of the yoga we have this 4 personality, whatever name you had there, Mahaprabhu, and then Kapila Dev and other personalities. But that might not be exactly the way other people will perceive it.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. The source for the question is also like how the statement of how Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are the source of incarnations. It just makes like there is a special form of Krishna which is appearing once in the day of Brahma, and others are having their own frequency. So just wanted to clarify because of that. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So, and Ramacharya Prabhuji also, thank you for your clarification. I actually do not have much idea about this, but I think I have heard in one lecture that although Mahaprabhu comes in every Kali Yuga, but the thing is that his internal reasons of coming are not manifest in every yoga, but the external reasons are manifest. Okay, he comes to preach the Sankirtana Dharma, but not every yoga he gives the Madhurya Bhav that he gave in this Kali Yuga. The secret pastimes of Radha Krishna, he doesn't give in every yoga. I just heard in one lecture, so just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Mataji, for mentioning that. Thank you, Ramacharya Prabhu, for giving this clarification on the question. Okay, it's short of 20 minutes over time. Sorry for finishing the discussion late. Thank you all for tolerating and staying and giving your realizations. Shanta Vaishnava Pranam. Can I conclude here, Prabhu?
No, Prabhu, I just want to say it was very nicely compiled presentation, and I hope we can continue this. This definitely will help us a lot.
Yeah,
everybody, yeah, this is very important. That although we have only around 14 devotees, 14 or 15 devotees who have been coming, but I would love to continue this and read the entire Bhagavatam like this. If we all dedicate, of course we can get through it. But thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you for the opportunity. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। असंबल भक्त वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय।
जय